Welcome to episode 3. Stay tuned. What you saying, cuz you good?
Yeah, I'm calm. You know what's funny? Because your sideways is throwing me off.
Do you know what? This is what I was saying to you before. Like, it's mad. And you're sideways to me. Like, people that are listening on the audio version, obviously we do the podcast virtually. So yeah, like you're at like a 90-degree angle. It's mad. It's mad right now. But what are you saying anyway? You good?
Yeah, I'm calm. Yeah, decent week. I can't remember if I told you, but paid off my student loan finally.
Oh really?
Yeah,
That
it's
yeah,
a bit.
that's a round of applause. If we had the sounds now on this podcast, that's a hey, everyone starts clapping moment, man. Yeah, that must feel good though. You must feel, because not many people get that do you know what I mean? That achievement.
Yeah. I think, well, especially the ones that are paying like 9 grand a year. So yeah, it's calm, man. It's I can imagine it will be like, when you maybe paying child maintenance and you have your last payment and you have to do it no more
Man said
because
OJ with the
that
leather gloves.
bringing it back. No,
Hey,
because that was a hefty chunk of money that was coming out of my account. So
it's like another
it's
mortgage,
good.
cuz like
Yeah,
this is what I'm trying to say to people when yeah, I mean I know a couple of people that obviously they hit that threshold. Is still the same that you got to hit a particular threshold in terms of your wages, and then it kicks in or something like that, isn't
yeah,
it? That's how it works. So I know there's a couple of people that for years they stayed under the threshold for that reason, because to be fair, they wasn't seeing the money that they would have been getting if they went over that particular part of the wage structure. So they can't, but then it catches up with you, because then you either stay in the job for a period of time or you want to excel in your job, but then obviously you got to kick in, the student loan kicks in. But fair play, man, because not many people, like I said, not many people are doing that. Not many people are achieving that. You're a new man. You got
yeah.
yeah, new bit of money.
Free
They're
and that
just free, man. Shackles are off.
little bit extra to help.
That's a
But
little
yeah,
bit.
man. But yeah, we
That must be a change and a half.
it's a bit still holiday money.
Yeah, no numbers, but yeah,
Yeah.
we see you over there. We see you over there.
Chilling. What are you saying anyway?
Oh, I'm good, man. I'm good. So obviously, yeah, end of the week, so I'm good. It's been a long week, man. Been a long week,
Mm,
lots to cram in, but I'm good. I'm good. What have I done this week, man? I'm trying to think what I've done. You know what? I've been to the school twice. Been to the school more than I've been at
yeah.
home. Like, yeah, loads of like them meetings, like just random meetings. You know, like where they're teaching people to suck. What's that saying? Suck eggs or whatever. That
Suck
stupid saying.
eggs.
Like, yeah, like we know this already. We know this, but I think they just have to do it. The tick box thing, all that stuff. But yeah, man. Apart from that, I'm blessed, man. Blessed. But to be fair, I wanted to start the pod by obviously the news. My energy's been off. Actually, I'll be honest. My energy's been off since Wednesday. Obviously, the news about the young girl getting stabbed and getting killed in it. Like, so my energies have been
Yeah.
mad off. So yeah, thoughts with her family and everyone, man, because that's like
Mm,
that's just a mad thing to try and even process and just like think about what her family's going through, what she went through, you know, protecting a friend, allegedly protecting a friend, and all the stuff that obviously we don't know facts. You know what I mean? It's a lot of speculation and nothing's really been concrete. But it's just a mad world, cuz that we're living in. So just grateful that I got my kids safe and all the rest of it, man. Gotta be honest.
yeah. No, it is. I've read bits and pieces about it, and there's just so many elements to what I'm assuming is speculation, but likely to be true. Just in terms of the ages of obviously the girl and obviously the guy that's committed the act. And even just the people that had to witness it, like like the bus driver. I know there's accounts and a bus driver had to go and do his best, but it wasn't. Obviously, it was just wasn't ever going to be enough. Funny enough, my mum was saying, because she sort of works around that side, and she was I think she was on her way to work, or she'd like gone past just after it had kind of happened and stuff, and even obviously should have said trigger warning at the beginning, but she was saying she was a bit triggered because obviously with me and my brother growing up in in the times that we grew up in. She's saying about it just brought back all the memories, all the concerns that she had, and obviously there were a couple of incidences that both of us separately were involved in. So, um, on the receiving end, I should say, not on the perpetrator end. But yeah, it took it. I don't know about you. I think you're saying the same. It took me like an hour or so just to digest what I'd read and
Yeah.
just the nature of it and everything.
Yeah, no, it did. It was even now, like just thinking, just processing things and just thinking there's so much things like, and it's probably not even for this podcast, like this episode. It's probably for a later episode when, but it's just like there's so much to unpick and it's probably not even the right time to do it. Do you know what I mean? So it's just, I was thinking, obviously the murderer, that's what you got to call him. Like, what situation has he been in to feel that he has to do that? Do you know what I mean? And like, what's happened in his life as well? That's a conversation that I don't think people, not that they're not willing to have it, they probably don't feel that it's necessary to have right now because of the victim losing her life. But it was mad, cuz like, and because I was having obviously conversations with people, and do you know how easy it is? Like, I literally went in on a website, literally put in the word machete. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you know how easy it is to just go and order a machete offline? And do you know what? It was $15.99, cuz £15. And they wonder why there's these kids walking around. Their mum's probably in work. If the dad's still around, the dad's probably still in work. So these kids, because that's what they are, they're kids, they're walking around with these zombie knives, killing each other. And it's so accessible to just get a machete or anything, samurai sword off the internet. It's mad. It's mad. It's killing. Meek Mill said it right. Meek Mill said we're the new KKK, kings killing kings. It's the truth, because we're just killing each other. It's cause I can't. I don't think I can even talk about it properly, like so early in the morning. But it's mad.
I think it's true though. I think the question that comes up is, how did we end up here? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just how did we get here? Even if I know, because we talked about loads of times, the kids carrying knives, and we've seen all the videos and stuff. But still, you're thinking, how's that come to this? You know what I mean?
It's just sad because, like, and then, do you know what annoys me when things like this happen? There's so many different like groups of people that all think they're right, and people will tell me that, like, the police have to do more, and then when the police try and do more, they just stop and search people. Because at the point that I'm at now with two kids that are young kids, stop and search might have to be a thing. I'm sorry, because there's that you can't. No one wears a label when they've got a flipping a zombie knife. They don't wear a label. They don't tell you. So unfortunately, to keep people safe, you might have to just stop and search. It might have to be that, because there's that many people carrying knives. Forget the race as well. White, Asian, purple. It don't matter. Like, at the end of the day, there's that many. Like, knife crime is rife in the UK. In the UK, not just in London, in Birmingham, in Manchester, Liverpool. There's violence everywhere. Like, it's not even just a London thing. And it's like, I don't know. The police are trying to do one thing. People are saying, no, but you can't do that. And it's just, for me, it's not even a policing thing now. It's more, I think we spoke about this on here or another podcast, what we're saying about like community police, when they used to be in the communities and they used to know the people in that community. The community used to know that police officer. That don't happen no more. So that's one big thing. They're talking about stricter laws and that. Do you think some of these people don't care about laws? They don't care about additional sentences and spending 10 years, 30 years in prison, because Wednesday proved that.
No, for sure. I mean, as you were saying that, because I was trying to think. Obviously, when we was growing up, there was a lot of knife crime, like, and obviously, didn't have social media in them times, so you just be hearing about it, or sometimes in my case is seeing it. But you know what I think I realize what shocks me about a lot of the stories now is growing up. I'd say this is anecdotally, but maybe 70, 80, maybe even 90% of the cases it was street. You know what I mean? Like there was someone involved in something. Very rarely was it. I'm looking at these now. I'm looking at Wednesday. That don't seem like it was any related to any let's say crime ties. There was the one. I mean, there's been loads, but there was. I don't know if you heard about the one where the kid stabbed the teacher in the stomach in the school. I think it was up north somewhere. It just I think that maybe the teacher told him off or something, like hotted him up in the class. So he came in on Monday morning, went for it, and just stabbed him in the stomach, and they had to close the school down. This is what I mean. Like I don't remember those kind of things happening so much. I feel like now it's just a bit of. I feel like you don't even hear about if you're gonna call them gangs or whatever. I don't really hear about those ones. It's just senseless.
Mm.
Like,
I think
so
it's
that's the shocking thing for me anyway.
I think it's because you're right. I think it's because more so now we've been like normalized to it. But the sort of everyday gang kind, not even gang, like that's just like the word that people like to put on top of that. But it's just crime, life crime. You don't have to be in a gang to stab someone, but it's more the normalization of even guns. Like, cause do you know how many times like I read the papers up here, like, or I'm on the app, like the local Liverpool news app up here, the Liverpool Echo app. Gunman bosses shots in someone's street, just a random street or outside near a school, and it's like it's normal. It's not like back in the day. You wasn't going to school for the next week until you found the person who done that. Do you know what I mean? Because your mum wouldn't send you to school, or like the whole street would be locked off, or the school get closed because they need to find the gunman. Whereas now, like it's just normal. Like to me, it's just normal. And I think you said something about social media. I think that's probably the worst thing that this next generation, like below us and the one below them as well, could come into, because it's like it's just like we're just. I don't know. People blame, like, I think there's a lot of blame culture. I think, people blame social media for certain things. I've seen like people saying about Andrew Tate, which is a whole separate conversation for linking that with misogyny, which again, separate conversation. But just like parents need to be held accountable. I'm old school, so I was having a conversation with someone on Twitter, and she was like saying, "Oh, the government need to do more. We need to pump more money into the government to help this and help that." And part of me agrees with it. The first thing I said to this woman online was, "I agree with you, but parents have to be held accountable as well, because at the end of the day, a school can only teach you so much." We spoke about this last episode about the whole curriculum needs to be changed and all that, but there's only so much a teacher can teach you. There's only so much a youth worker can teach you. A parent has to do the job first. The parent's job. Don't bring a kid into the world if you're not willing to educate them on right and wrong and what they're supposed to be doing. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, you know me anyway. Like that, I believe that it does start in the home. I still blame our government though. I think.
Blame them for what though? What do you blame them for? Sorry to cut you up, but this is what I was trying to get out of this woman, and she wasn't really like answering the question.
So it might, how I feel about politics. Whether it's this government or the next government, most likely similar things will happen. But I do believe that this government in particular has just sold a couple of generations down the river. And although it's not an excuse, it's like the whole thing. If you play Call of Duty and go out and shoot someone, it's the Call of Duty's fault. It's not really like that. But I feel like whereas when I was growing up, there was so much stuff for the kids to do. It was a bit easier to mix. I think there was more available. The disparity between the rich and the poor wasn't so big. I feel like now, like the parenting has to be flawless, otherwise the maddest of madnesses could happen. And I think that's because the government has taken so much away from the everyday, average Joe, leaving people with I've nothing to lose really. Like they just, I feel like, and I know the context behind what happened on Wednesday is a bit different based on some things I've heard. I wouldn't say necessarily it's a poverty thing, just based on a few things I've read about the case and who the people were that were involved. But I just still feel like I'm looking at this generation thinking, yeah, like what the fuck you got to, at times, like, what the fuck you got to aspire to, because can't really buy a house. Going uni's a myth if you ain't got money. Even if you don't want to do those things, it's hard to just do anything. So, and I feel the government has just taken that away, and that's why I say, uh, even if you had a bit of a chance, you got the best, you know, you got the best home. But there's a few issues. Maybe mom's got to be out working, or you've got to be left on your own, or you've got a couple of siblings. The society is ready to take you and make you start moving mad anyway. And that's why I say the government, for me, is a big factor in that.
I've not that I don't agree with that, because I do feel like youth centres, and I remember growing up we had like 5-a-side pictures literally
There's
everywhere
loads
and
of stuff
everything.
to do. Yeah.
But I'll say that, but I do think that's an excuse for a lot of people that they use, because I know there's people. I can use my brother as an example. Like he's the best example I could use. Like he got himself through uni. He made opportunities for himself. I didn't help him that much. Do you know what I'm saying? So there's people, to me that's a cop out, because when people say, "Oh, I'm living in poverty," this and that, well, change your surroundings. I know it's not as easy as that. I know it's not as black as white as you can just go and do that, but you can help yourself. So just saying, "Oh, the government's not doing this to me, so fuck that, I'm just going to do it." That's to me that's a mad mentality, because you can make any opportunity in this day and age. And we said this about the whole social. We're talking about you don't even need a shop. You can open a business online or whatever. Because there's people starting up businesses with like £100, £200. Like even your benefits, you save 2/3 of your benefit for the next 3 months.
But I think that's if you're a bit older, innit? I'm talking about them
Nah,
ones that
because
are probably
there's
between like 9 and 17. Nah, come on, man.
because there's
I
people
can't expect.
16, 17 that are opening their own business online right now. It's just that they've got a
but
different
then
mentality to certain people. Now it's a cop out, because honestly, because people use that as an excuse that
I
they.
think that's unfair though, because that's
Because if
great
you
for
was in
all
that,
of them,
let
all of them
me ask you a
15, 16
question.
year olds. Go on,
Sorry, let me ask you a question. If you was in that
go on.
situation, are you telling me that you would say, because there's no youth centres, because I haven't got a youth worker, because I haven't got this, I'm going to go and do a madness on the street? Because that's what people say. I'm not saying you're saying that, but that's what
The
people
thing
use
is,
that.
though, I know that I could have very.
But you didn't.
I think what I'm
I
going
know
into
you're
too
going to
much
say
detail. No,
no,
but
but you
the
didn't.
reason I didn't though is because I had friends around me that was looking at it thinking you wouldn't last in this environment, but not necessarily because I couldn't handle it, but I was just too much of a hothead, so I wouldn't last because I don't like taking orders
But
or listening to
you
people.
made a choice. So that's what I'm trying to say. There's
I did, but
opportunities.
but it was fortunate because I just happened to have, especially like one or two friends that just said this trip ain't for you. But I would have
But you
gone.
don't need.
Do you
You
know?
didn't need them.
Do you know
You
what I
didn't
mean?
need them to tell you, because you didn't need them to tell you, because you
But
knew. But then that's
we
a
both
choice.
know though that
Yeah, I hear what you're
it's a
saying, but
sliding doors moment.
that's a choice. That's a choice. You can't blame that on the government, because you're making them choices, and this is where we have to be held accountable as people. We can't the same government that we've had have not changed anything since they've been in power. So we can't still expect them now. What is it?
No, they haven't.
Four,
They've. Listen, I can't even bother to get into it, but
no, but that's what I'm trying to say though. They haven't. What have they changed? They haven't changed anything. So now you got to take your own. You've got to take your own opportunities yourself. Some people are saying like,
No,
but the government haven't done
I
this
think
for
that's
me.
unfair. If I don't know, like coming back
Cause
to the
come on, man.
example that I was making, though, the reason why I was able to step away is because there was something else to step away into. So
Because
if
the
someone's telling
opportunities are
me,
different now. Remember, you're how old? Like, without even saying your age, but you're a lot older than the
no, but
people
I'm
we're
in
talking
thirties,
about.
yeah,
Yeah. So
yeah,
the
yeah.
opportunities that you had then were very limited. There's too much opportunity. You could just get a camera, an iPhone, and make a business out of it. Do you know how much there's things to access right now? You don't need to be going uni or not. You can make. People are
But
making
I
millions
think
of
you're saying
pounds.
that with your mindset because of how things work. Like we had to have that
I'm not.
kind of mindset
I'm not
growing
saying it because of
up
that.
because No, no,
or
no. But
not?
I think it plays a role though.
You might do, but I'm just saying that there's opportunities, and you take the
Yeah,
road that you
yeah,
take. You got to face the consequences. So we can't keep blaming
yeah.
the
Hundred
government, this,
percent.
that, the other, and then we want the police not to do this, this, and this, but then we want the police to run the streets properly. But then it's contradiction
It's
because we're
it's
saying that
not
at
it's
one
not
point we
it's
don't
not
want to
black
stop
and
and
white like
search,
that though. Because yeah,
but it kind of is
I'll
though, isn't
happily
it?
see the
Because
police stop and search. I don't think it is because I'm happy to see the police stop and search. But when they start moving racist, I then I don't want them to be racist while they're doing it, but they can still do it. But a lot of them will be racist and do it, and that's what the issue is. It's like the government. What I'm not saying is they're to blame for Wednesday or everything that's happened, but they've also had a massive role in just selling the futures of a lot of the generations down the river. Apart from their own kids, a lot of them, their kids are fine. Do you know what I mean? And they're fine
make your
because they're skimming all the money from us to pay for their kids, their house. Do you know what I mean? But them other
I
kids
don't
that don't
disagree
have
with that though.
that,
I
but it
don't
makes it
disagree with that.
harder. So I
It
can
does, but
understand
then,
why.
your mum and my mum and everyone else's mum must have told you from a young age you got to work harder anyway. So you knew that. You knew that before you even got out the front door. You got to work twice as hard because of the color of your skin. My mum told me that, so
Yeah, but
I didn't rest on
was
my
it easy
laurels.
though? You can't tell me that 100% of the time you're like, I'm just gonna just keep
But
plugging
life
away.
ain't easy, cuz this is what I'm trying to say to you. Life ain't easy.
I know, but you must have
So
had
it don't.
days where you were thinking, oh, this is long, man. I could just go and
No,
could do, and then you didn't do it.
I'll tell you the
Do you know what I
truth.
mean?
I'll tell you the truth. When I left school, I had a crossroads. I could have gone down a madness
Yeah,
path, and I could have gone
yeah,
down a normal path. At that crossroads, that's my choice. If I want to go down the madness, I went down there a little bit, and I thought, no,
yeah,
let me turn back. Let me turn back. I took the wrong turn. That's not the exit I needed. I need to get back on the motorway and carry on my life. That's it. That's it. To me, that's where it comes black and white because I didn't. You can choose that life. You can choose to do the madness, but then you got to be held accountable. That's all I'm saying. If you're going to do a madness, you can't then
yeah,
start blaming this, that, the other, and blaming this person and blaming that. You done the madness. So that's it. About your choices and that, or what's available to you, go and make your own opportunity. This is 2023. Opportunities are there. You can do anything in this. I said this to you when we was in Barca. The opportunities are there. The opportunities are so. The next generation are so lucky they don't realize it because when we were growing up, we didn't have those opportunities. Opportunities now. You can go. You could be a millionaire just off social media. Do you know what I mean? People are monetizing off FIFA. Do you know what I'm saying? Like there's things out there. People are
yeah.
making thousands of pounds a night
But
playing FIFA.
this is the point though. You can let's say you can monetize off FIFA, for example, but you need to have the setup in order to be able to do it, and you
Because you
also
need a
need
TV
to.
and an Xbox. That's it. You don't need nothing else. A TV, Xbox, and a webcam.
Come on, you
Do you know
got
how
to
cheap that
upload the
is?
video. Like you know what I mean? There's bits to it,
Cause
and
you
you
can
got to
do that
have the
off your
time. You
phone.
got to have.
Nah, you're making excuses, come. Sorry. You can upload a video off your phone. Your iPhone can upload a video. You don't need no Canon or Nikon, nothing. You literally need an iPhone, an Xbox, and a TV and a headset with a mic. You're making money.
Yeah, yeah.
You make you could be in
I'm not
the
denying.
dirtiest house, the dirtiest box room, and still make £1,000 a night. So
Yeah, I'm not denying that. But I'm just saying, I just don't think it's as black and white as that. I still, and I feel that I do feel the government has had a massive hand to play. Whether things are
I'm not
easy or
saying that they
not,
haven't
I
though.
can,
I
yeah,
agree with
yeah.
you.
No,
They
no,
have.
that's the
But
same.
go and make your own opportunities. Don't wait for the government to change your life. Go and change your life without the government. You don't just go and help do the best you can with the tools that you've got. That's all I'm saying. This whole thing about we're waiting on the government haven't helped people for generations. So what do you think they're going to do for you now? They're not going to turn around and go, oh, do you know what? We've been messing around for 55 years. We're going to suddenly turn around and start helping the people that we haven't helped for 55 years. They're not going to do that. So nothing's going to change with them. So what are you waiting for? Every day you're on earth is a day closer to death. So what are you waiting for? Do you get what I'm saying?
No, I feel that. No, don't get me wrong. I'm not condoning anyone's behavior or, you know, encouraging or suggesting. But I understand why someone will just look at life and think, "Fuck it, I'm gonna go down this route." When a certain combination of things come together. Well, listen, like you said, a lot of us have had crossroads for one reason or another. you can only really go down one path. You can't really do both unless you're a ghost, innit? You know.
Man said Tommy
and
Egan.
even he got it. so it's not possible, man. It's not
Listen,
possible.
talking about crossroads, I think your man Jaden Sancho's got a big one to make right now. He's got a big one to make. What do you think? Well, for context, I mean, and I might have got this wrong, so stop me and tell me if I'm wrong. But so from what I know, he's basically, because obviously Jadon Sancho last season, if you remember, he went away, didn't he, for a couple of months, about 2 or 3 months. He went to train in, I think it's like Netherlands somewhere, and I can't remember where it was. Came back, finished the season, and then obviously there's a lot of talk about his sort of disciplinary record in terms of him turning up late or whatever. Ten Hag's basically come out after, was it the Arsenal game? I think it was, or it was one of them. It was a big game, I think. He said he didn't train hard enough. And then Jadon Sancho put out his own statement afterwards to say, basically, I'm training as hard as I need to. And basically kind of saying, Ten Hag's chatting shit. Is basically what he's trying to tell us. There's been a standoff since then, since that whole kind of statement from Ten Hag, statement from Jadon Sancho. I think FIFA got involved, the FA are trying to get involved, players are sort of siding with Ten Hag. He's now being told that he basically has to apologise or you're training on your own for the rest of the season. Do you feel like he's been harshly treated for that? Do you reckon this is a whole thing that should have just been kept very in-house and do you know what I mean? Like he shouldn't really be in the public domain.
I've been trying to think about this in 2 ways. So what if this happened to me in my job, but also in a football context is different? Is this just how it is? So if I got thrown under the bus like that, because he was that, it was a strange thing to say, and he didn't have to. The manager didn't obviously have to say he hasn't. Basically, he's just saying he hasn't been working hard enough, like publicly. But at the same time, if my manager did that, know that I will do everything in my power to make them look like a dickhead. Yeah. So and then if they're still carrying on like that, and I know it's personal, then obviously, I'll bounce, innit, or whatever. Football's a bit different because one, you can't just bounce because you are. I know the footballers say they're slaves to their contracts, but to an extent they're stuck in it because at the end of the day, as long as they've got that contract, I think they can buy themselves out, but essentially you're stuck there. So I'm looking at it and I'm thinking, well, man said he ain't trained hard enough. That's why you're not in the team. Why do you need to go on social media? Like, who are you talking to? You know, who are you defending yourself to? Just go train, innit? You don't need to say anything. And it's subjective. It's not like man said, oh, you know, we caught him, you know, stealing money out of the lockers of other players, and there's a legal like it was the manager's opinion. So you just got to take that on the chin and just say, all right, that's your opinion. I'll do my thing. If it's not working, I'll bounce, innit? So I just want to put out that post, and I'll just apologize and say, all right, like, I don't agree with what you said, but shouldn't have put out the post. Let's just move on. Do you know what I mean? It's the ego thing. That's what it is.
I think it is a bit of that, but then at the same time, I think if the manager can come out and say something about me, then am I not well within my rights to then defend myself? Whether that, because he said it in public. Ten Hag didn't say it behind closed doors at Carrington. He said it in front of the world, millions of people watching on TV. Is he not then, even if it's an ego thing, it could be, I think you're right, I agree with you, but is it still not his prerogative to say, do you know what, I'm going to defend myself. I'm going to speak out and say, no, actually, I have been training well. You're just not choosing to pick me. That's your choice to not pick me. But at the same time, I think I'm training well.
No, I think...
But why not, though? Because if you're doing a good job in your job and then your manager goes on the website, the whole website of everything, and says, do you know what, he's not actually doing the job I want him to do, are you not well within your rights to say, you might be right, sure, your opinion, but I feel like I am doing all right in my job?
I'll go talk to the manager. Say,
really? Would you?
I'd say...
Even after just put you on blast to everyone in the whole world can see that she thinks you're not doing, or he...
Yeah, but this is what I mean. I think it's an ego thing, because at the end of the day, And to be fair, for context, I think he was asked why is Jadon Sancho not in the squad.
Yeah, but
He's just been honest,
come
and
on.
he just
You know what them
no, no, I'm
presenters are
not.
like, man.
No, they're devious. But at the same time, he was asked a question, and that was obviously the reason. So he was just honest. He didn't even say, he's not good enough, or he just said his training. I think he said something like his training wasn't up to the standard, or something like that. Which I think is, I wouldn't have done that personally. I just would have said, like a lot of managers will say, I liked what I saw from the other players, and I picked the best 18 or 20, whatever. I can't remember how many subs there are now, but the best 20 players I felt will do the job today, etc. But he came out and said no, that's the reason why he specifically isn't there. So for me personally, I want to go to my manager and say, I didn't really like that, and I don't really understand why he did that. So let's thrash this out. Let's deal with it. Do you know what I mean? And that's how I deal with things anyway. If I don't like something, I'll go to the person. I'm not gonna, because it was an emotional response, because he then went on social media, put up the thing, and then took it down. So
Oh, did
even
he
if he
take it down?
thinks he's right, yeah, he's taking it down now.
Oh,
So
okay.
even if you think it's right, you don't take it down, innit? So it's a bit messy. And that's why I say I would have just gone and spoke to the manager. What would you have done?
I would have gone out in public, because if you're taking it to if you're taking it, I was going to say if you're taking it to the
Taking it
streets,
to
but
the
you know what I mean.
streets.
You know what I
Let's
mean,
go
though.
back
It's
to
just
the
a thing.
last conversation, isn't it?
Exactly. But if you're going to take it there, then I have to respond in the same way. If you responded like, even if you said it in the dressing room, do you know what I mean? Then I'd understand. If you said it in front of all my teammates or after a training session, I'd understand, because I say, "Oh, Gaffer, can I just have a quick word, and can we go to your office and talk?" Then I'd get it. But to come out in the public, because Pochettino got asked the same thing about Noni Madueke after the Villa game, I think it was. And basically, Noni Madueke, for people that don't know, plays for Chelsea. He's theoretically meant to be injured, but I think he's fit enough to play again now. But there was a video that went around of him whilst he was injured partying. Now, there's nothing wrong with that, because when you're injured, you still got a life. So it's his thing. He can do what he wants. But then he wasn't selected, I think, for Sunday against Villa. Then he wasn't selected on, I think it was Wednesday when we played Brighton in the Carabao Cup.
Yeah.
So then they got asked, why is he not in the team? And he just said, sometimes it's about the choices that you make. Now, the way that Pochettino said that, it's like, is he talking about the choices that Pochettino is making? Or does he mean the choices that Madueke is making? Now, yeah, so for me, that's a very good response, because you could mean it in one way where you're talking about, right, he's made the mad choices. Noni Madueke, you're not in the team because you've made some bad choices. Or these are the choices I have to make as the manager, because this is the team that I feel is comfortable enough to win the game. So for me, that's a good response. But when you're taking something like, oh, he's not training to the standards I need him to the public, remember, it's not just, remember, United's a big club, you know. You're talking millions of people, and then you've got millions of people saying, oh, Jadon, do you know what I mean? So I think you're taking it from a context of like, go on.
You know, with that though, in saying that, I think the Poch one is maybe the way I might have dealt with it. But in saying that, there's two ways you can read that, because it's a politician's answer, isn't it? It's not really an answer. So you read of it what you can. So in some ways it's good. He doesn't really want to get involved in it, but you can say it's not really direct. So it's not really answering. But anyway, either way, you can have an opinion on it. I'm looking at from a United perspective. So if I'm working in a team, but I can see that certain men are on, I mean, some of these guys are on like $250,000 a week. Yeah, I'm not saying it's all about the money, but I'm looking at thinking, these men are slacking off. I need everybody to know that if you want to come and work in this business for me, there's a standard. If you don't make that standard, let it be known that this is how I deal with it. And so to an extent, I respect the honesty, because at least that way you know where you stand with him. And he's generally been like that. You know what I mean?
Even with Ronaldo,
a bit different. It's a bit different, because he was saying like, the Tottenham game, he didn't want to bring him on to disrespect him. I think it was Tottenham or City. I can't remember which. I think it was City actually. And that was a little bit like, that's not why he didn't bring him on, but okay. But he's been very much like, these are my values. So you need to stick to the values, and publicly or privately, if you ain't doing that, this is how I am, innit? So it's up to you, and you can respond to the challenge or not. So I don't really mind that, to be honest. And I think that's because everything at United has slacked off so much over the years. People have been getting
Mm.
away with murder, like, and absolute murder. So I think that might be why he's come out and done it as well.
It's a tricky one, and obviously he's, like I said at
Yeah,
the start, it's his own. If that's the way he wants to deal with his team, then so be it. But for me, I would have took a bit more of a diplomatic approach and just said, you know what, the reasons are the reasons, and that's a conversation for me and Jaden to have or whatever. I just kept it moving, man. Because did you lose that game? Is that the game where did the Arsenal beat you in that game?
yeah. It was 3-1. But
Yeah,
I've got a
I feel.
question though.
I feel before you say that
Do
though, I
you,
feel that's
go
why
on, go on.
there was a bit of frustration in his answer because of the result. I remember the result, and I remember him getting pressed by the Sky
Yeah,
Sports person. He was getting pressed a little bit, not just for the Jaden Sancho, but just around the performance and
yeah,
everything.
yeah,
And I
yeah,
feel
yeah.
like he was just being
It was
pressed.
probably a bit emotional. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
100%. Sorry, go on.
And no. And even to touch on that, like when the emotions have all set aside, it's just ego now. At the end of the day, like they both got their egos, but this is gonna sound a bit mad because it kind of goes with and against what I believe. But your manager's your manager, innit? So if you're working for someone, as long as they're not asking you to do anything mad, you're there to do what they tell you to do in the way that they do it. And if you're not doing it in the way that they want you to do it, as long as they're clear, and I don't know what the conversations are behind the scenes, but as long as they're clear and it's not up to scratch, then the manager's well within their rights to say, yeah, you need to step it up. And I'm saying that because I'm having to have these conversations at times with people. Do you know what I mean? In my life, I don't want to make it too specific. So
No,
across my
100.
life, do you know what I mean? That's it.
Some elimination
Again,
process. People listening to the pod. Are you talking about when a
people
pod,
are
yeah?
like, what's the date today?
Yeah.
Oh, it's that time on that day, that year.
Yeah, say
That
no
I
more,
must have
man.
been one
Just
of the
say
eight
no more.
people. Yeah.
Yeah, say no
So
more.
yeah. No, what was I going to ask you? Oh, do you think not Sancho, but a response like that, when your managers come out and said it in the way that Ten Hag has said it, do you think a response like that is too sensitive? It's not Jadon Sancho is a sensitive person, but do you think that whole response and putting up the post in response to that is a bit sensitive?
A little bit, but I think there's a need for it in a particular moment, and that probably wasn't the moment to put that post up, if that makes sense. So another example, Victor Osimhen. I don't know if you obviously anyone knows him, plays
Yeah.
for Napoli. Now, after I don't know, I didn't see the game, but I think he missed the penalty. I think so. Again, don't quote me on that, but I think he missed the penalty. So the Napoli admin put some of the maddest TikToks I've ever seen. I don't even have TikTok, but the maddest TikToks I've ever seen from a football club, a professional football club, about their player that currently still plays for them. Now, in that situation, I'm flipping every table in the changing room. I'm punching up the ad. Do you know what I mean? I'm going to put out a mad statement on socials and say, look,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
because you've done
And that's
that. You've done
different.
that on socials. So
Yeah.
yeah, there's a time
That's
and a place. I think
personal.
when, yeah, I think.
Yeah.
But even the Jadon Sancho one, that's still personal. Like this is what I'm trying to say. Like I hear what you're saying about he's the gaffer and he doesn't feel like he's playing to the standard. But there's a way of doing it. For me, so in the past I've managed people, yeah, in my other jobs.
Yeah.
And I would never put anyone on blast. I just would, even the shittest people I've managed, and they know who they are if they ever listen to this podcast. But I would never ever put them on blast. I just wouldn't. I would always. There's a way of dealing with people, and do you know what? When you want to try and get the best out of someone, if they're not performing, the worst thing you can do is put them on blast, because the morale that they probably had, that was shit anyway. Which is probably why they're not training well, they're not working well. You then put them on blast to the whole. Bearing in mind, I'm talking about in my work, but imagine millions of people now thinking you're shit at football. Yeah, millions of people put you on blast. Your whole morale, your
Yeah,
mentality must be
I
through
see
the
kind of what you mean.
ground. The ground now. You're in the basement right now. So I don't think that's the right way to get the best out of your player and or a worker or your staff member. I think the way to do it is say, look, I'm not really happy with how you're doing things. I think this might help you, or do you need additional coaching on this or additional training on that, or do you need more time on this? We need to assess you in a couple of months to see where your standards are, if they've gone up or they've gone down. This is a conversation. It could be a thing, a private thing that we don't even know about. Do you know what I mean? Like that's going on separately away from football for Jadon Sancho, why he's not even training well. There's so many
You know
things.
what? It's a good point actually that you raised, and it's just made something click for me because I was thinking about my like management team now and ones I've had in the past, and yeah, like you said, whether I would in like like a public space, like a team meeting, someone's asked me a question, oh, how comes this person got selected for that task but that person didn't? I wouldn't come out and say because they're not working hard enough. However, however, this is the bit that's clicked. Yeah, Ten Hag like still I think work with a certain type of player, and I know not for a fact, but I'm pretty confident that there's certain men that he's brought in that if he said that about wouldn't be going social media. They'd just be cracking on with it. And what I would say is if someone did that to me at work now, I would still go have the chat with a manager, but I would personally see it as okay, this person's got higher standards for what we want to achieve, so let's do this. Do you know what I mean? Especially if I knew, because I'll be real, to bring it back to Sancho, he's not pulled up trees. He's had some really good games, and I don't know, maybe he's got some personal stuff going on, whatever. But he hasn't been as good as either he thinks he is, or the club thinks he should be, or the manager thinks he should. There's something missing. So in that sense, it's like, again, what the manager's saying is his opinion, but there's probably is some truth to it, and he's probably not performing the way you hope. So for me personally, and I'd say this is probably up until about 4 years ago, this would have been my response. Probably before that, maybe not so much, but if someone said that to me now, like publicly, I'd be like, all right, cool, let's do this then. You don't think I'm working hard enough? Tell me what I've got to do, and it gets done, and then let's see how it works. And I think that's part of it. So I think you're right. You've got to choose the right person. But that response, I think, can work well for certain people that are just going back to what we were talking about before. Certain people that have got a certain mindset are just built differently.
But I don't think he is. I think he's got like I don't want to like say that he's got a weak mentality because I don't know him, but I just feel
different mentality, isn't it? You see,
yeah, I don't think
in a different way.
Yeah, and I think if there's certain people, certain players that you probably say that to, you'd bench them. Like I wouldn't not have him in the team as well. I'd put him on the bench, but then you can ask me why I didn't bring him on. And then I'd say, well, these are the reasons why he didn't start the game. I don't think he's training well. And then the next game, I'd probably either bring you on or start you. And that's where I'll do my talking on the pitch then. Because that's the only way people are going to think, actually, Ten Hag's chatting shit. Because look at Jadon Sancho pulling up trees and he's cutting through the defence. Now, that's the only way that would have been the best response from Jadon Sancho would be to do all the talking on the pitch. When you get the opportunity, go and do your talking on the pitch. Don't do it on social media. Go and do it on the pitch because that's where people will see you. They're not seeing you at home. They're not seeing you like people talking about. I think when you had your Europa game or whatever, I can't remember, even the Europa or Champions League. Sorry, I'm just used to the Europa. I'm just used to United and Europa. But yeah. But
yeah, anyway.
Not yet, exactly. Hold that thought for a minute. But when you was playing your Champions League game, he was at home playing FIFA. And people say, he's at home playing FIFA. And I was like, yeah, but what do you want him to do? What do you want him he's not in the team. What do you want him to do? So I think...
Do you know what, though? It's a good point. And I've purposely not mentioned certain other things I've read because I don't know how true it is. There's things about FIFA, punctuality and things like that. And if all of those things are true, again, it does build a picture, but I don't want to be out here saying all of that because I don't know that for sure. And I think it sets an unfair narrative.
Yeah,
come on. We talked about mental health and all that stuff.
We don't know him, so we shouldn't even be like digging into his life or nothing. But all I'm saying is Ten Hag possibly could have handled that better. But then, like I just said, I think Sancho, for me personally, should just do his talking on the pitch. Get an opportunity, whether that's in 2 weeks or 2 months, just do your talking on the pitch. Go and bag a goal. Go and get 2 assists. Have a 9 out of 10.
And
silence the critics.
Rip off your shirt when you score. Run up to the manager, start flexing your muscles, and then get back on the pitch.
To be fair, in this day and age, he'll get sent off. He'll get sent off. He get a yellow card for taking his top off, and probably get like another yellow for flexing his muscles. Yeah, or time wasting or something. Do you know what I mean? So football's gone mad. But I wanted to talk obviously because the women's WSL starts again the first. So tomorrow, I think, or whenever. I think it's tomorrow, the first game or the first. Can't remember what day it is now. And obviously, like going back like 4 or 5 years, the WSL was like it was very unknown entity. Some of the women were still, using football as like as a side hustle to an extent. They were, regular 9 to 5ers, not on pro contracts. Whereas now there's obviously a lot more, so there has been more investment into the game. And off the back of the international tournaments, the World Cup, the Euros, over the last couple of summers as well, do you feel that women's football is getting more? It's obviously getting more investment, but do you think it's becoming more of a normal thing for a lot of people that were probably against it at the start? Not against it, but just didn't really have a following for it.
Yeah.
Do you reckon it's getting more coverage?
Yeah, I think so. I think what's probably been, well, I can only say it from this country's perspective, but I think because England won the Euros, I think that made a massive difference. And yes, it's been nice to see. Like, obviously, we were gonna go and try and catch a game when we was in Spain, which unfortunately was postponed. It's really annoying, but annoying isn't even the best word to use.
Yeah, I'm gonna say that's
can't say the word
kind
that
of
I
my.
want to say. Yeah, no, but yeah, but no. I mean, it's it's been really positive, and I think personally, what's been nice about it, because I don't really follow the league football. It's more the internationals when they're on, but it's almost like a fresh slate, because obviously men's football's men's football. Like, I enjoy it. I enjoy watching it. I'm invested. I'm what, like 30 years deep or whatever. Yeah. But I think with the women's game, because particularly the international game, it's so open, and particularly that World Cup as well. I mean, you had the situation where Nigeria or Jamaica could have found a way to the final. Do you know what I mean? And possibly even won. And obviously, in the men's football, firstly, Jamaica struggled to qualify for anything. They're doing better now, but there was that freshness where you could just go in and support, just support a couple teams really, and anyone can win. I still feel the vibes get a bit toxic here when England are doing well at times, but it is where it is. It's still nice for people to celebrate and come together. So, yeah, it's been really positive. I think that the challenge now is going to be the issues that we're seeing with like the Spanish women's football team, because it's intertwined with society, isn't it? And pay and things like that. And I wonder where it's going to go from here, because it's on a positive trajectory, but how is it going to deal with all of the politics that come, where there are still men of a certain mindset involved. What about you? How have you I say enjoy it, but how have you experienced the rise of women's football, either club or internationally?
I think it's just been one of those things that obviously there's been, I think the investment side of it has helped and still needs to help. I think it's still not where it needs to be. And it's obviously come on a long way from like 4 or 5 years ago when it was kind of just still developing and building up. And I think the fact that, the whole country, to be fair, was gripped on the last 2 international tournaments a couple of years ago, that would never have been a thing. Like, it just would never have, I don't think it even would have been televised as, and kind of not pushed in your face, that's the wrong thing, but would have been promoted as much as it has, the last 2 summers. So I think that's a big thing. I think I'll be honest, I think this country is probably one of the only countries, and I can't really speak for other countries because I don't watch women's football across the European leagues, but I feel like this country is the only one that really has a problem with women's football. I do. Not a problem, but there's still some, like you just said, there's some people that still have that mindset of like, oh, they shouldn't be playing football, they should be in the kitchen, that old cliche. But to be fair, I think it's just country just has problems with certain things. Like, I think if you go if we went to the Spanish league, the Barca game, I don't think there would have been no like sarky comments or no like stupid things being said or, do you know what I mean? Like, I think it's just this country. I do. I think there's an issue with this country that if things aren't what the norm is, then it's a problem. And I think that's still going to be, there's always going to be that problem. I was thinking the other day, like going a bit off topic, but there's not really many like Asian or Asian footballers. And I think like the Premier League set up in 1992.
In the men's game or
in the men's game? Well, both. Yeah. And when I say Asian, I mean of like, I know sort of It's like Japan and they sort of clash as Asian teams, but I'm talking, a Pakistani, an Indian. There's not.
Yeah.
1992, in 2023, and there's still not really anyone that's broke through for the first team. So I think it was only the other day that they had like the first black referee that's or linesman or something I was reading in the Premier League or in the Football League. So I think there's still a long way to go in both games, like men's game, but also, especially for the women, I think they're on the right, like you said, the trajectory is going well. I think that the TV, the Zone, Sky Sports, I think missing one of them, but there's BBC have got loads of rights to the games. The games are accessible. Like the games aren't like 40, 50, 60, 70 pound. They play 3 games, I think now a season at the men's there was a whole debate about it's not the men's stadium, but where the men predominantly play their games, the women also play no stadiums now as well. And I think I read somewhere that I think it's Liverpool are hoping to use Melwood, which is the old training facility for Liverpool, the sort of men's team's old training facility, turning that into a stadium for the women as opposed to playing at Anfield, so they'll have their own, because they currently play like at Walton Park, which is that's Everton. I think one of the 2 teams play there anyway, but Liverpool will have their own stadium, women's team, which is sick. Help revenue, will help progress the game a lot more. So I think it's on the right path. I think it's a long way to go still, but yeah, it's good to see, man.
Do you think it will get as big as what men's football has been?
Possibly not, and I don't mean that in a disrespectful way, but I just think it's a bit like when people talk about hip hop and rock music. Like they're so far apart that I don't think it will ever catch it, because it's just so far ahead. It's clear. It's so clear.
Yeah.
Will it still get the same level of exposure, and will it eventually hit a level that the men's football was at one point in terms of viewing numbers, in terms of playing in front of 60,000-70,000 people? Well, they're already kind of doing that now in terms of like Wembley Stadium or others. The Barca, I think they had 100,000 people or 90,000 people in the new camp for one of the games. So they're doing that already. So I think they're already on that. Like I said, the trajectory is looking good for them. But the men's game is well advanced ahead of it. And when I say that, I'm talking about the quality of football, because we have to mention that, like, some of the football quality, not just in women's game, in youth football, in, the lower leagues, in League One, League Two, National League, like, it's not as good as the top flight of the Premier League. So I think there's going to be a quality difference in all leagues, but it will get there. I think, like I said, I think it's good for women. Like, I look at my daughter now and I think, she wants to join in when we're playing football in the garden. She wants to join in. So she watches the games. She, like I said to her on the coming weekend, we can watch one of the women's games because it's back now. Because she was like, where's all the women's football gone from the international tournament, the World Cup? I was like, I'll be back soon. So now it's back. She wants to watch them. So I think it's good for the next generation of kids coming through. They'll be able to... and not all women's football's like, I still hear people say, women's football's rubbish, or, they can't kick the ball, or the goalkeepers aren't the best. But you could say that about Notts County. You could say that about Rushden and Diamond. You could say that about Pickford. No, you could. You could say that about Sanchez the other night. So I don't think it's a case of, is the quality as good as the men's? Possibly not. But you got to think about the training facilities and the advancedness. Is that even a word? But like
it's catching up, like you said.
It's catching up, but it's just a slow burner. That's it.
Yeah.
That is it for me. But
no, I'm interested. I'm interested to